Oh, why me?
Because you're special.
What? Special like special bus special? Or? Okay.
Well, we don't want to repeat that which you've already heard. So where?
Well, were you guys all at the panel?
Yeah.
Not all of us.
What would you like to know? Did you have specific questions, or do you just want us to kind of blather? Because we can do both.
Well, why don't you start with the blather, the quick explanation of the show?
Okay. My contribution to Stan Lee's World of Heroes is essentially a 75-minute movie that will be broken up into 5-minute webisodes entitled Head Cases. It's the story of a young disaffected would-be hero named, goes by the code name of Thunderhead. The reason being that he can generate ear-shattering blasts of thunder if he slams his head against hard objects. The downside of this is that his head is not invulnerable. Consequently, the first time that he endeavors to go into action, he winds up knocking himself unconscious during a bank robbery. The video footage of all the bad guys running past him while he's lying there out cold goes onto YouTube and becomes an instant YouTube sensation, and he becomes an instant punchline. As a result, feeling frustrated and having lost any interest in being a hero, he spends most of his time hanging out in a local bar for superheroes and villains called the DMZ. He hangs out there with his fellow C and D-list superheroes, including a hairy Chinese guy who goes by the name of the Monkey King, mostly because he throws his poof at people, and a stoned, out of his mind psychic whose predictions are notoriously unreliable. Into the mix comes a young would-be heroine, young Perky, who remembers him from the old days and decides to make it her job to try and bring him back into the fold of heroing. Head Cases will have a variety of guest appearances by noted people in the industry, up to and including Stan Lee, who will be playing the role that he was born to play, Stan Lee. He will be our equivalent of Norm. He walks in, afternoon everybody, Stan! You know, that kind of thing. It is a concept that was first suggested a few years ago by a guy named David Uslan, who is now be the producer of the show. And ultimately, the series itself was co-created by myself and my wife, Kathleen. And we're tremendously excited to be a part of the world, Stan Lee's World of Heroes, because I think that we can agree that, in fact, it is Stan Lee's World of Heroes, and we are just living in it.
Well, that's hard to follow up.
Oh, I have every faith.
So our contribution is we produce the show Fan for Stan Lee World of Heroes.
Tell them your name.
My name is Jace Hall.
There you go.
I was recruited to play the judge in this. Fan Wars is a courtroom that's designed to actually legitimately argue out comic book hero points. Superman stronger than the Hulk? Is the Flash faster than Superman? Well, they're all throughout geekdom. There have been these kind of arguments just in comic book stores and at home and between brothers and sisters. So the idea is to bring that out of those places and give it a real forum in a courtroom that's sanctioned by Stan Lee. So what you have is, if you've ever watched Judge Judy or the People's Court or something, you have people coming in, making their case, presenting their argument to a celebrity panel who actually determines whether or not who's made the best argument. I'm the judge, and my goal is to maintain order and keep it moving, because things can get kind of silly at times, or sometimes things can get really heated because there's a lot of passion in this sort of thing, and sort of just get it all through. And what we've actually found is there's a real forum for this. When you watch it, it's a recognizable format. The minute you turn it on, you know exactly what it is. The first episode actually came out last Monday, so you can check it out on World of Heroes. But the audience gets so invested, because you got a lot of Marvel fans or DC fans. Or
you actually have an audience, people sitting in the courtroom?
Yeah, in the courtroom, a lot of costume players and just general fans. And so, because remember, the celebrity panel is basing their decision on how well the argument is presented. So let's say you're a huge Batman fan and someone comes in and argues, I think Batman is more powerful than Robin, right? And the other guy is, no, Robin's more powerful than Batman. And you're a Batman fan, like, man, come on, this is not even an argument. But the guy goes up there and he just says all the wrong things, and meanwhile the Robin dude is like, yeah, he's Nightwing, and he can, and then you watch him win. The audience just passes out. They can't even. I mean, so in between court cases, we had these people coming up. No, you can't do that. That's not. And so it's really about who's supplying the best argument.
So it's not a scripted show. This is more like a reality, or it's an actual.
It is
no.
like,
Head Case is a scripted. This
right.
Yeah. This is literally determining what it is.
Okay.
Do you have?
It's kind of unreality television because you're sitting there having real arguments about things that are unreal.
Yes, but man, they're real to people.
Do you have a comics background, or are you just kind of learning as you go along?
No, I actually I'm a huge, giant nerd geek video game. I'm totally that, and I got recruited into this whole thing because I'm friends with Stan Lee, because we produce another show which focuses on sort of video game nerd geek culture called the Jace Show, but it's more like Curb Your Enthusiasm. So it's sort of a romp where the cameras follow me and I bump into all these different celebrities doing what I do, and we film it. So that's a show that's been very successful, and we just launched episode 1 of the 5th season yesterday, where we reconstruct Milli Vanilli. You remember them? So, to give you an idea of what the show, how that works is I'm playing video games with John Heater, Napoleon Dynamite. He loses playing Atari, and he starts blaming the Atari for his loss, which what people do, they blame the game. So then I start to sing, blame it on the game, like blame it on the rain, and it turns into a Vanilli music video where actually Vanilli has reprised his role. He's come back after 22 years, and he looks exactly like you remember him. And we go to a whole music video, and then the video gets cut off because the real singer of Milli Vanilli, who you've never seen, we found him, and he interrupts the music video and says, no, this isn't happening again. And so this time we see these guys together, and then at the end of that it cuts, and then I'm back with John Heater, and he's like, what are you doing, man? You're singing to me? And then we move through and we look at Diablo and all these other sort of video game stuff. But that show, we wound up going to Stan Lee because I had a Hulk comic book, number 1. I had Hulk number 1, and I wanted Stan to sign it. And the first thing Stan does when he reaches for his pen is spill a whole cup of coffee across the whole thing. So, and we got it on film, right? And then, and Stan just starts laughing. It's a horrible nightmare. So we do that, and then we eventually come back to Stan and try to repair the comic book, but he had candles. He had candles lit for relaxation or something like that, and so the back of the comic caught fire. So that's how I know him, and that's how Fan Wars sort of comes to be, because Stan knows that I know comics. When we were sitting over there, he mentioned a comic that he had worked on where Marvel versus DC, and I know everything about it. So
when he was talking about his show, I was saying how much I love the whole notion of this, because a number of years ago, I had what was probably one of the greatest creative experiences of my life. I was one of the 2 writers, along with Ron Mars, on a series called Marvel vs. DC, which was essentially the culmination of fanboy dreams come true, in that it had all the Marvel superheroes squaring off against all the DC superheroes. And Mark Gruenwald and Mike Carlin were the editors on the series, and there were 4 grown men in our collective early 40s actively arguing at Mark's apartment, putting the story together and deciding who was going to win and who was going to lose, and we're actively having those arguments. I mean, we're sitting there like, but could this guy beat this guy, and how would he go do it, and what would be the technique? And it was incredible because it was a fanboy level discussion being held on a professional level, which underscored for me the notion that it doesn't matter how far up in the food chain you come in this business, you're still always a fanboy at heart. Because some of us are lucky enough to actually wind up being at a level where people give you money for it, which to me is kind of insane, because it never occurred to me, not that we get paid, I'm okay with that, but the notion that this is now how I earn my living. I can't believe it. It's the phrase "a dream come true" is an overused phrase, and yet I think that this is the kind of thing that really just epitomizes.
Well, I just think this channel that Stan set up, it's long overdue.
Yeah.
Finally now if you're into this, you have a direct channel to the guy who's sanctioning all of his content and giving it his personal eye, and this is cool. You know, we're living in a time where that closeness can be achieved, and so it's good to see Stan reach out and do that, and not remain behind, you know, in an ivory tower somewhere.
And I think you're right in that it's long overdue. I mean, if you look at the list of top 50 box office movies, something like 45 to 46 of them are either science fiction, fantasy, or comic book related. And certainly after this summer, probably more, because between Avengers and Batman coming back, you know, there's just this massive amount. And yet, for some reason, the fans of science fiction and fantasy and comic book are seen almost like some sort of fringe thing that's enjoying it. And I think that's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. This is what it's all about. This channel is, you're absolutely right, long overdue. Absolutely.
Make sure you watch it. There's some cool stuff coming up.
Absolutely. All right. Any other questions?
It all makes sense. If we overlap,
who are some of your celebrity judges?
Let's see. Well, we actually had Adrian Curry on there. We had Ryan Thompson, who
the actor?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Oh yeah. We had Cara Santa Maria, the science girl from Huffington Post. We had Sandeep Parikh, who you know from the Guild and all that. We had Teal from Stargate. Chris Judge. And
you had Chris.
Chris Judge came in. We had. I'm leaving some out. I can't. There's 10 of them, so 10 episodes, so I can't remember them all.
Hey, Mark, you're supposed to be here now? No.
We're in trouble. Maybe we'll get Mark.
You totally should.
Maybe we'll get Mark. But so we want to continue to advance the celebrity panel. Maybe have Kevin Smith and maybe try to get Jeff Johns to come in.
I'm telling you right now, the longer this goes on and the more word gets out about it, trying to get is not going to be an issue. You're going to be keeping people away with a stick. People go, okay,
check it out. I'm really curious. I really want to see what you guys think. We try to present it as professional as possible. It really looks like a TV series. Are we out? We're done? Thank you.
Thank you.